every lesson. I mean, we pretty much have a full inclusion model, which our special needs kids are in regular classes daily. Chief Heedy for an outstanding job in making sure that our buildings are safe and secure. Matt Heinel, who's transformed our food service, where kids like eating lunch. He got it. They really do. We got a breakfast, a salad bar in the middle school. He's working on bringing ice cream to the high school, but just thinking out the box and doing the things necessary to ensure that our students are successful. Miss Besit, working very hard. The Fathers Walk, she did a great job in coordinating the Fathers Walk. How many fathers did we have? 300 fathers across the district. That's pretty good. Miss Lozar taught from January all the way to the test. She went in and team taught with various teachers. When I say hands-on, Miss Lozar should be given accolades for her hard work. Miss Hunt did a lot last year. She was really my backbone in a lot of situations last year, in holding things down and making sure that we hire the right people and being accountable. And I appreciate the hard work that Miss Hunt did last year also. And then our principals and Mr. Vine, I just want to give him major accolades for thinking out the box on a daily basis. And if you go to Westwood, you will see the great work that goes on at Westwood, how the teachers are working together in teams, and how the kids are first. It's not about adults, it's the kids first. And you see that at Westwood. You will see that also Miss Bishop, who's she's out today, but Miss Bishop at Eastwood, she's made tremendous adjustments. Whenever she sees something, she's working with her staff to ensure that it's changed and adjusted to ensure our kids are being successful. Miss Thompson, she's not here. She's excused. She had another engagement. But Miss Thompson and Miss Klopman, where's Miss Klopman? I saw her come in. John Dewey, if you go over there and see the kindergarten, see the pre-K, you will see outstanding work going on at John Dewey. And what we see in our scores is that we're building from the bottom. The bottom, starting with our kindergarten, our first group is in third grade, actually. That's moving to the fourth grade. That got that 40%. So we anticipate that you'll see this year that our scores will continue to grow because these are the kids who have foundations, who we made some personnel changes, we put some great programs in place. Our pre-K got approved got the 4-star rating, which those students are remaining in our district. So you will see a groundswell of the work going on. Last but not least, our middle school, Ms. Braxton, again, over at the middle school doing great work. She's made hard decisions at the middle school. She changed some of the culture at the middle school, but you can see how the growth of our students, you can see one positive thing I can say is that we have one of the additional positive things, but this for the first time ever, we had to have a 7th grade volleyball team, because so many girls came out for volleyball that, and that's never, most of the time we have one team and then a lot of the younger girls get cut and don't participate. But her enthusiasm and the work they're doing at the middle school has resulted in we having 2 teams, and we anticipate that will continue, hopefully for basketball too. But just the culture at the middle school, the caring nature, that exists, we congratulate. And then at the high school, Mr. Reynolds has done a great job of changing the culture here, and our kids are learning. And we have our firefighter program and just the regular everyday feel at our high school. Anyone who comes in here is very happy, and our students are happy. And for his enrollment in 9th grade to be over 180 students, which is the largest 9th grade class we had, probably about 15 years. So I just want to congratulate the people who did the work, because all our staff did the work. It wasn't me, it was them, and I am truly thankful to be here and serve. So that concludes my report.
Board, is there any questions for Superintendent Jolly on any of his updates that he went over with the district? Do we have any questions at all?
I don't have a question. I do have a comment. Mr. Jolly, I just want to thank you for the hard work that you put in to the work that your staff did to increase our grades. There was a lot of sacrifice that you've made over this year, and it was apparent in the work. I just want to personally
Thank you.
Any other board would like to comment on Superintendent Jolly's? Ms. Meerman? Okay. I just want to thank all the staff and all the educators and everybody in our district. I mean, you guys did stand up to the challenge, and as Superintendent Jolly mentioned, it was a lot of naysayers, and you're going to have naysayers. Oh, they can't do it, or Warrensville never did it, but you did it. I know I'm proud as an alumni, along with two others that sit on this board, and you guys did it, so I'm very proud, and I'm braggadocious when we do something, so I want to actually thank all of you guys. Next on our board agenda is Section 2, the Consent Treasurer's Report and Financial Recommendations. I'm going to turn it over to our treasurer, Dr. Rock. Dr. Rock? Thank you.
So this time of the year is one of the most important times of the year for the school district, for all school districts in Ohio. The permanent appropriations budget is due September 30th. Mr. Jolly, do you have a clicker?
Clicker.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. So the permanent appropriations, they're due to the county auditor by September 30th. Some of the highlights of the permanent appropriations, and I brought a copy just in case you didn't have them from the board attachments. The general fund is within current resources for the 10th year in a row since 2010, which is real good news for us, and you'll see that translate into our 5-year forecast. Food Services Fund has a carryover fund balance, and that's going to be able to fund the combi ovens that we have on the request that's on the agenda tonight. So that Food Services Fund is also having a good year. Actually, the results of multiple good years. The Bond Fund has a carryover balance that we're going to utilize in our finance model to pay down the old bond when Phase 2 passes in November. Permanent Improvement Fund had some major purchases in it this past year, 2 new buses, 2 used buses, and the Chromebook program. And Mr. Jolly and the Treasurer's Office were paying close attention to that carryover balance for future needs and to be strategic with that fund because we have some options that may come to us in the future. Fund 004 and 010, you'll notice those are new funds. That's where our money is sitting for Phase 1. So you can see there's substantial amounts in there. And what we have to do is we have to divide up the proceeds between the two funds. 004 is all our LFIs. Those are the locally initiated projects. And then 010 is our base fund for the building plus what's going to come in from the OFCC. And that's required by the OFCC. So you notice those are 2 new funds that are in there with substantial amounts. The 013 fund is the recreation fund, and it's budgeted with an operational transfer from the general fund for this year, at least our first projections, with a transfer of $5,000, which is a decrease from last year's $8,000. And Fund 300 is the athletics fund, and it's budgeted right now with an operational transfer from the general fund at $151,000, which is a little bit more than the prior year at $130,000. And again, on that fund, we'll have to see after the gates are collected and how that works out. And then this is a summary of the state fund allocations. In other words, like Title I, Title IIA, so you can see the differences of the 2 years. And we will provide a further report on that after we close out today. At the end of September, the FERs are due, the final expenditure reports from the prior year, and then that's where we learn which funds have how much to carry over into the new year. So like for Title I, our allocation on 572 for this year is $889,000, but there's going to be a portion of the prior year that we're going to be able to carry over, so that'll go up. So this will be to be continued, but this just gives you a snapshot of how we're beginning the year with the pure allocations from the state. And then that concludes the permanent appropriations part. The next section is a review of the board service fund. and the laws and what's required from the board service fund. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take certain sentences from the law, directly from the law, that clearly describes the board service fund. But if you read the whole thing, then it could get, easily could get confusing, because they're talking about city, local, exempt, board of education, and also educational service centers, which we're not. We're a city board of education. So this is all under Ohio Revised Code 3315.15, service fund. And this is right from the law. Any city board of education may by resolution set aside each year from the general fund a sum not to exceed $2 for each child enrolled in the district, or $20,000, whichever is greater. So the formula is you're going to take the greater of the student enrollment times $2, or $20,000. So for us, and now we know we have better data at 1759, but I was using 1770. If our enrollment was 1770 and we multiply that about $2 per student, we would have $3,540, or we could take $20,000, and they tell you to take the greater of the two. So for us, the answer is $20,000, the greater amount, okay? Now, also in the law, at the very end of this law, it says, no board shall appropriate or expend a sum greater than $60,000 in any one school year for such service fund. This is purely for larger districts. So if a district had more than 30,000 students, this is where this comes into play. So for example, if a district had 31,000 students times $2 per student, it'd be $62,000, or $20,000. So by the first part of the law, it says pick the greater of the two. So you would pick 62,000, but this is where the limit comes in. You're only limited to 60,000. So that's how that part of the law works. Then the next part of the law, 3315.15, the amount of the set aside shall be placed in a fund known as the service fund, which shall be used only in paying the expenses of members of such boards of education actually incurred in the performance of their duties. So really what it's saying with actually incurred in the performance of your duties, these are like reimbursements. If a board member went somewhere and they had mileage there, that would be counted towards the $20,000. If the board member had to pay for a meal or pay for attendance to attend something, to go to a meeting for $30 or $40, that would, anything that the board member would pay for that we're going to reimburse goes against the $20,000. And now, I've seen this in my experience. Boards have taken that $20,000 and just said, that's what we want our budget to be for everything, and include everything in that, which is sort of the road that we went on at the organizational meeting, which is why I'm presenting this. So when a board sets that, you know the reimbursements are going to be well below $20,000 anyways. And also, this is why this amount has never been changed by the state auditors. You know, if it was based on actual expenditures, they would be ratcheting it up due to inflation. This has been $20,000 forever, because they're seeing that this would be just the reimbursements for expenditures that a board member would have. If we sent you somewhere and the district paid for it, that's not included in the $20,000. It's something that where the board members incur expenditures for the performance of your duties. So, and then here's the other part. Such payments shall be made only in such amount as may be approved by the board on the statement of several board members furnished at the next succeeding regular meeting of the such board. So in other words, you would have these reimbursements. The board member or members would bring it to a statement. Obviously, it will go through the secretary, through the treasurer, to bring to the board, put on the board agenda. It would be board approved, and then the treasurer could reimburse those board members accordingly. The reimbursements for expenses of board members actually incurred in the performance of their duties. So again, paid after the board approved for mileage, meals, travel, cabs, etc. Expenses paid by the board member cannot exceed $20,000. So the key thing here is that the law is saying to have it board approved. Now I've seen boards where they approve it beforehand. You know, they'll say, we agree that the two board members are going to go to the Columbus meeting, and we agree to reimburse them the travel costs. So now it's approved ahead of time, and that's still acceptable because it's board approved. So some of the action plan, and these are just some considerations after going through this exercise, is to consider a board policy that all seminars will require prior board approval. I'm just throwing this out there for the board's discretion. Seminars or expenses incurred by the board member prior to a board approval will require board approved prior to any reimbursement payments as noted in the Ohio Revised Code. In other words, you may go somewhere and pay for it yourself, but you're risking having to pay for it yourself until it's board approved, and then that's directing the treasurer to reimburse. Organizational meeting, you could set up the board service fund, refer to the board policy on board approvals and subsequent reimbursements. Reimbursable expenditures that are board approved on agendas can create a running total as the board approves the expenditures. In other words, you approve the expenditures for certain board members, they come back and now they say, here's the amount. Well, we could track that now in our agenda, so we could have a running total, so we could see, well, what was approved last month, now we could add to it, and it could become a way of historically maintaining the information and keeping it running. So as the board discuss any future professional development, you could see where you're at with your tab along the way. Sorry, I called it tab, but. And then the last one is maybe to consider a placeholder on the agenda that would cover just board professional development, and you can put a spot in there for approval of upcoming professional development and a spot to review the information and concepts that are gathered at the professional development. You'll have a whole section in your work session or regular board meeting. So those are just some suggestions. Okay, so and then the next section. This section, I saw it important for us to cover this concept. And this is in your presentation. These are all the levies that the district has right now. So in 1976, or it's actually a group of levies, those are all continuing levies. The full millage is 29 mills, and the effective rate is 11.39. So if we just stop right there, some may say, well, what's the effective rate? That's the rate as a taxpayer, if you own a property in the district, that's how much you're paying. So even though the tax rate was voted in at 29 mills, you're only paying 11, okay? And someone will say, well, why does that go down? As property values go up, that levy can only collect a certain dollar amount. Okay, so as property values go up, the tax value goes down because it's only allowed to collect a certain dollar amount. Okay, so that happens on all of the levies that are continuing. The next one, in 1980, it's a 5.9 mil levy and is collecting 3.8. Then you can see going, and then next to all of those, that's the rule of House Bill 920. So all of those levies that say House Bill 920 next to them, they will be adjusted. So as values go up, the county auditor is going to look at it and say, well, I only need to collect this amount. So if I was taxing this, now I'm going to collect a little bit less because it's real simple. Valuation times the tax rate times the collection rate. And that's how they come up with the amounts. So as the valuations go up, they're going to lower the tax rate because it's only allowed to collect a certain dollar amount. So like if one of these levies was going to collect $1 million, and last year they were, or let's just use this example, this year they were charging 11.39, next year if values went up, they may only charge 10.39 next year because the value, so now the value went up, it's going to pull more dollars because it got bigger, so now you lower the tax rate. So that's the main concept here to look at that. So we have levies from, and then 1982, it's an 8 mil levy, it collects 5.4. So when you add them all up, our effective millage is 68.68. What I want to draw your attention to is the inside levy, the one that says 5.1, okay? That's the one unique levy. That was given to the district way back when the district was incorporated. So in other words, and that's why when you go, in November 6th, when you go to vote, you're going to notice that our levy says in excess of the original 10 mills, okay? When all the governments were set up, the state of Ohio gave you 10 mills, okay? And so the city of Warrensville Heights had 10 mills, and they said, well, we're going to put 5.1 to the school districts, we're gonna put so many mills to the fire department, so many mills to the police department, and that's how you pay for all the different organizations. So that's the inside millage. Now, inside millage is not affected by House Bill 920. So inside millage will not change. It's always 5.1. So we have this year, it was real good news for our tax valuation. We're getting out of the recession, and all of the valuations of the district went up by 12%. Well, that could create some panic, and it's creating panic in all areas, even out where I live, you know, went up, and people are saying, wait. So a lot of people are saying, well, my taxes are going to go up 12%. Well, they won't. The increase in valuation will impact only the inside millage. The House Bill 920 levies will adjust, so those effective rates will go down because now the valuation went up. And this is how it looks mathematically. So if we had a house that before value, it was worth $60,000, and the inside millage is 5.1, the taxes on that, just for that 5.1 mils, is $107 per year, okay? Now, we have the valuation increased 12%, so it goes to $67,000 on the house. The 5.1 mils, then the new tax is $119. The annual increase will be $12.85, merely $1 a month. So that's the increase you're gonna see. So if you take that $12 and you extrapolate that on 60,000, it's way, way, way below 1%. It's like 1/4%. It's so small. That's the only thing that's gonna increase. So I wanted to show that just because a lot of, you know, it's great that our valuation's increasing, but that's because of House Bill 920. We're not allowed to increase our dollars because of that. So valuation goes up, taxes are actually gonna go down, and we still collect the same amount. That's just school finance 101, and that's the way it's set up in the state of Ohio. Except for the one little part to the inside millage, because that never changes, it doesn't go up or down. So then, to take it out a step further, the impact of issue 9. Issue 9 is a combination bond and PI levy. It'll be on the ballot November 6th. This will complete the master plan for the district with new facilities for phase 2, 6 to 12 campus. Phase 1, remember, has been financed with no tax increase to the local taxpayers. And issue 9 will cost $12.25 per month on a $60,000 house. And then that concludes that part of the presentation. The other handout I do have is the one on the deficit spending policy that's also out for first reading. So this is a deficit spending policy that we wanted to add into existing policy for fiscal planning. Deficit spending also ties in with cash balance policy, which Mrs. Elba and I attended a seminar where they talked about cash balance policies that ties into this. So the deficit spending, the beginning of it, says that the district deficit spending occurs when the total current year expenditures exceed total current year revenue sources. The district has operated within current revenue sources since fiscal 2010. The Board of Education intends to continue spending within current resources, but recognizes that scenarios and circumstances out of the control of the district may create deficit spending for the school year, such as low tax collection rates, exempt property cases, and unanticipated expenditures. And the main thing here is that when we recognize the deficit spending in our 5-year forecast, step 1, if we see it in year 3, the superintendent and treasurer are going to make note of that and note it in the 5-year forecast that we're assessing it and taking charge, taking a look at it, make sure that we're trying to eliminate it. And then if it's in year 2 of the 5-year forecast, it's a little more important for us to take an action. So we're recommending that there would be actually board action plan where the board approves this action plan. And the action plan could be a combination of budget reductions, new tax revenue streams, alternative increases in revenue sources, the combination of all those above, and then more importantly, the board accepting a cash carryover cash balance. And over here, we're using 6 months, which still is sizable protection of the carryover. But this way, recognizing any of those combinations of using that for your action plan. So that's the concepts behind this. So sorry if I'm jumping the sections, but I wanted to just give you the background of
No, that's fine.
how this was all written up. And then also on the agenda, there's 2 combi ovens for the food services. Again, the food services fund has enough to pay for that. That's on the agenda. And then there's 2 then and nows. They were emergency repairs that we had to do to the buses, where we're getting the buses ready. So the invoices came in before the purchase orders. And that concludes my section. Sorry, it's a lot this month.
No, that's all right. Thank you, Treasurer Dr. Rock. Board, is there any questions for Dr. Rock on any of those pertaining from 2.1 to 2.8? Go right ahead.
So, Dr. Rock, I just have a question, and I just need some clarity here. So, this phase 1, the gentleman came a couple months ago and stated that there was going to be some additional things needed, which was gonna cost extra money. He also stated that in the beginning, he said it wasn't gonna cost taxpayers money, but there was going to be a dollar amount added. But he wanted to take the dollar amount and add it to the second phase, correct? So are we still telling people that it's not gonna cost money, even though technically it is, it's just not gonna cost it on the front end, it's gonna cost it on the back end? Or was there some kind of way that that dollar amount was able to be absorbed?
There's an alternative LFI in phase 2 that accounts for even more students, for the expansion of students to the tune of $2.7 million. That's built into phase 2. So yes, that is part of the bond on phase 2. But if for some reason phase 2 doesn't pass, we're still moving ahead with phase 1. We just the building wouldn't get built with those extra classrooms. So that's what that is. And then the other part of that, though, they are talking about, and they're problem solving right now, on the cost of construction, which has gone up. So there are some budget problems that they are working on. So those are 2 mutually exclusive things. But still, phase 1 was purchased with no taxpayer increase.
Second question to that is that, are you aware if this levying committee, while they're out discussing the bond levy, are they saying that, or are they saying no funds up front, or do you not know?
I know exactly what's said. We said no funds up front. In the event if this levy fail, we still will build the building without the extra classrooms. So the extra classrooms are additional, but we don't have to have the new classrooms. We want the new classrooms in the building because we believe we need the additional space. But if the levy fails, the building will still be built.
Yeah, levy, for the part 2, it's anticipated. It's like an extra LFI anticipating further expansion. So that's why we have it as an LFI.
Okay. My next question is, the $60,000 home, how are you getting the 10710 or the 119? Because I don't know how many people's houses are 60,000 here. Some may be more, some may be less, or whatever. But where do you get that? How do you get that to that dollar figure?
To the, how the calculation works?
Right.
We're glad to show you that.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't go back to the. And the $60,000 figure is our average house value right off the Cuyahoga County website and sales data. That's right off of there. Sorry, Jonathan. Oh, you need my thing again? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'd like to do it up here so that the whole audience can see.
You have room, Jonathan?
Sorry, I must have closed it when I did the last page. There we go.
open it up.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Board members, he's pulling it up now if y'all want to see it.
Okay, so here it is. So this is how you do the valuation on a house. It's $60,000, okay? And you times that by 35%. So it'd be 60,000 times 35%, and that'll give you $21,000, okay? Then you divide the 21,000 by 1,000, because we're talking about mills, okay? So that's 21. And then it's 21 times the mills, so 21 times 5.1 is 107. Now, on the next one, you do the same thing, but you'll use 67,200 times 35%, divided by 1,000 times 5.1, and that'll give you 119, and then the difference of the two.
Thank you.
That's a great question, though, because it's good to see it in action. This is exactly what we're planning for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But being fiscally responsible,
Right.
I mean, the building is going up with or without the extra space. The plan is to put the extra space in, but if the taxpayers decide they don't want to support it, then we will have to build and make accommodations on what we have. So our plan is to put it in there, but in the event it doesn't happen, we have a plan B, so we'll be fine.
At this time, Board, I would need a motion for the consent treasurer's report and financial recommendations, items 2.1 through 2.8. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve by consent the treasurer's report and financial recommendations, items 2.1 through 2.8.
Do I have a second? Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Board, any additional questions?
I do now have a question.
Go ahead, Vice
Dr.
President.
Rock, on the board service fund, this is just for mine, it looks like I'm registered for Capital Conference for this year.
I think it is too.
Yeah, and I clearly stated I'm not attending Capital.
Oh, okay, we'll take that
Take
off.
that hotel.
So I just want to make sure we have not registered me,
I think she did.
because I sent
We
an
will-
email.
We will take it off.
Okay.
Any other additional questions for Dr. Rock in that section?
I just want to clarify something with the board service fund. So you were saying something about reimbursements. So I know that we all had a discussion back in January about the board service fund. So are you saying that the actual cost of the conferences are not included in the board service fund now?
Yes, if you read it, but like I said, boards will decide to go otherwise. So what our board said was we want to do everything in a $20,000 budget, which is over and above beyond the law. If you read just the law, it's the reimbursements that have to be within $20,000.
Okay, so then what I'm seeing here then is just what we've spent as a board
Yes.
in terms of the board
Exactly.
service fund. However, if you were to just come up with the reimbursement amount,
You'd
it
be
would
well below.
well under the 20,000. Okay, and then I see where you make these recommendations. At some point, board, I would like for us to have some discussion about the recommendations that he made, because some of those are really good. In particular, that last one about the placeholder for approval of upcoming board professional development. I mean, I think that's something we could probably even discuss now, since we still have some training left. I mean, you know, stuff left towards the end of the year. So would that be possible for us to add that placeholder?
I mean, we can discuss it as a board. I mean,
I guess that's what I'm asking.
yes.
Now, if we can discuss it as a board, and
Did you guys want to discuss it now or later about the board service? Because,
I think what she's asking is just to just put the placeholder
Right,
on our
thank you.
agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a
So we'll bring it back.
2-minute discussion. Are you guys okay with having a placeholder on the agenda?
When, for our work session? In 2
Right.
weeks for our work session? Oh, okay.
But moving forward for any meetings. Honestly, I think it could be on any meeting because there could be a training session.
yeah,
that
we can have a
comes up,
discussion about it.
whether at a work session or at a regular meeting. So just add the placeholder for all meetings for brief discussion.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay. We're gonna, eventually gonna have to change it to one of those items which the entire board feels comfortable with going into the 2019.
No. What she's saying is it would just become a part of our standing
I
agenda.
understand. She's gonna
So-
talk about it every, yeah. I
Right,
understand what
so
she's
it's
saying,
only if
but
we have something to discuss. Yeah.
no problem.
So yes, I think I had checked that off as well.
So am I hearing that we will go ahead and add that to the upcoming agendas, placeholder?
Or would you want that to be discussed in the following 1, 2, 3 months or 4 months?
Can we discuss it at a later time?
It's up to you guys. I mean,
That's my part.
Ms. Muman?
I don't have a problem with it, to be honest. It's just an agenda, guys, that's
Right.
all I'm asking, to add that for the agenda.
Yeah, we're just
But I-
talking and discussing it.
Yeah, but I would like for us to add the board service fund for discussion for the next work session.
I'm great with it. Vice President?
Yeah, oh, yes, we need to, yes.
And, I just wanna thank Dr. Rock for, the action plan that he came up with, that provides a lot of clarity for me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else need to?
Oh, I do have one other thing.
Go
I
right ahead,
apologize.
Board
The
Member
deficit
Cater.
spending policy. I would like to ask Dr. Rock, we did discuss it briefly, just letting the board know, to ask the board's attorney to review this deficit spending policy, to make sure that they are good with the wording, just to make sure that as a board we're covered. Does anybody have any objections to that?
I have none. I mean, they always can put their eyes on it. I have no problem with it.
Okay, so if you could maybe let us know something before we do the final reading on it.
Yes.
Thank you, I'm done.
Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is Section 3, Consent Superintendent's Recommendation and Presentation for Board Action Administrative Staff. I need a motion for 3.1, Employment of Communication Coordinator. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and communications for board action certified staff, item 3.1.
Do I have a second? Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Muman. Any discussion?
Dr. Rock, were you able to get, attached to the contract, you mentioned at the last meeting, you'd like to start having the, attached to the contract, the license to BCI and FBI? So to avoid his future problems, remember we talked about that, y'all looking, were you able to get that?
Yes, I did for the EMT.
No, for this person right here, because they were.
He's talking about communication license.
Oh, okay, that, do we have,
Kayla.
is everything completed?
Okay, so,
Kenya?
so let me go back, because everybody is looking a little
We're
puzzled.
not, we totally
Doc-
understand exactly what you're saying.
Okay, you understood, okay,
Mhm.
because she was looking a little discombobulated.
it come through human resources.
No, Dr. Rox made a suggestion to us that it would make his department easier when it came to his things, is if everything was attached, so then they would not have to go back later.
That's fine.
tracking it down.
Yep, that's
And then Ms. Gator has stated that would be more of an operational, but he stated that was something he would like to have. So since this person is from out of state, my question is only, do you have everything, a BCI and FBI, because they're from out of state, attached to the things that you have?
You would have to check with HR.
Is everything complete?
Listen, she wouldn't be on the
Right.
agenda without it. So what we would do, Dr. Rock,
That
is
it-
ensure that before, you will send you the BCI.
Well, usually the contract follows afterwards.
Yeah. So
So it's a
it'll
little
come
bit-
with the contract.
The contract comes to me for signature afterwards.
Where it come through,
Mm.
I'm telling you what he said makes his department easier. I know
He said he'll look into
Hold
it.
on, can I ask a question? What makes this work for you, Dr.
no,
Rock?
when I-
Because I'm confused. I need to know what makes it work. Yeah, I need to know what makes it work for him.
Just,
Hold on, can Dr. Rock explain it?
yeah, when the board president and treasurer sign the contract, it'd just be
Yes.
nice if it's attached. That's like the final catch.
So do you need it at the meeting, like before
No,
we
just
put?
attach it
present
to
the
the-
name?
Find it. I haven't.
Attach it to the contract when we sign it, because Kenya won't put it onto the agenda unless everything's complete anyways.
So I want to be clear. So Kenya, before a name makes it to the agenda, do you have a clear FBI and BCI? Okay. So the process will be once it's approved, then you will get stapled with the contract to BCI and FBI.
Yep.
That will be the process.
It's just a good final internal control.
Okay.
Just a final check, that's all it is.
At this time, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. At this time, I would like Kayla to stand up. She'll be our new communication person. She'll be the face of the district. If you would like to say anything, Kayla, you can stand and just address the crowd. No, you can come on down.
Come down here.
Yeah, you can come on down. Tell her.
The phone is yours.
Well, thank you so much. This is my second Monday here. I come to you all from Hartford, Connecticut, which similarly has struggles as well. We were an urban district, so I understand what it's like working and trying to share the good news stories. So I'm excited to come here and try to really create that and push that out, the vision that you all have worked really hard to do, and share that with the public, and incorporating boots on the ground strategies and things like that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kayla.
Welcome.
Next on our board agenda is item number 4, the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action certified staff. I'm looking for a motion from 4,
Or two, please.
excuse me,
Or two, can you separate it?
the supplemental?
Yep.
No problem. At this time, what I would need a motion for consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for board action certified staff. I'm looking for a motion from 4.1, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, and 4.8. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certified staff. That will be item 4.1, skipping 4.2, and then going from 4.3 to 4.8.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Board, is there any discussion about those items, 4.1 through 4.3 and 4.8?
It's not 4.2.
4.1 and 4.3 through 4.8?
Yes, thank you.
Right, that's what it's saying. Is any discussion on those items, Board?
No.
Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next, I need a motion for the consent superintendent recommendations and presentation for board action certified staff. I'm looking for a motion for 4.2, amendment for supplemental. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certified staff, 4.2, and amendment for the supplemental.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Board, do we have any questions or discussion on 4.2, the item?
So I have a question.
Go right ahead.
4.2, so are these two new people, or these two additional people, or people that were already there? And, wait a minute, and then the one that was, released with pay, is that part of this, or is that something separate?
The person was not released. He is with pay. He's just not coaching at this time, and he's still on the payroll. I have to defer to Kenya for the other part of that one. It's about the pay of these people where they already coaches already. Coach Swift. So the wrong amounts was submitted first, and he's just correcting it. And they're not replacements for the coach that's not coaching. No, they're not replacements at all.
So what we typically do is, to try to have more coaches, we usually split up the assistant amounts, because there's only 4 assistant coaches in the contract, so to allow for more coaches, we kind of split the amount, so that's why some of the amounts are different for certain coaches, because they have different rules, so.
Is that approved through the union? The union agreed to that?
I'm not aware.
Um,
Because it's only one teacher that's actually a coach.
We'll talk to Ms. Barnes about it tomorrow. But that's an adjustment of the pay. The pay was wrong on the first agenda item, so you're correcting it. Right, and the position of a coach is still, they still have their position, the one that's not coaching, yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question on this? So what I'm hearing is, so these are assistant coaches, right? We have one set amount that we do for assistant coaches, and we might have one assistant coach that gets it all, or 3 assistant coaches that it's split between. Is that what I'm hearing, or is that not what's happening?
So, you have 1 head coach and 4 assistant coaches by position.
Okay.
So, to have more coaches, you pretty much split the amount. So for example, just to make numbers easy, if you have 4 coaches for $16,000, if you have 4,000 apiece, just to make it simple. So in order to get 5 coaches, you just divide the 16,000 by 5 coaches to have more coaches, but they won't get the full contractual amount. So that's how you have the.
I
So-
understand. So the overall supplemental amount
It's the same.
that's been approved is the same.
That doesn't change.
So,
I think we've always done
yeah, so what happens is if it's a union member gets full pay. Anybody who's in the WEA get full pay. Because if they don't get full pay, then they file a grievance and get full pay.
Is there any other questions, board, on 4.2? None? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
abstain.
Mrs. Gator, Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, 4 approval, 1 abstain. Next on our board agenda, Section 5, the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for board action classified staff. I'm looking for a motion from items 5.1 through 5.4. Board, do I have a termination?
Yep.
Board, I retract that motion. I'd like to make a new motion. I need number 5, the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for board action certified staff. I'm looking for a motion from 5.1, 5.3, and 5.4. Do I have a motion?
Mrs. Chair, I move that this board approve item number 5, consent agenda for superintendent's recommendations and presentation for board action. Classified staff for items 5.1, 5.3, and 5.4.
Do I have a second? Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mumin. Board, do you have any questions about those 3 items right now, 5.1, 5.3, and 5.4 on the agenda? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Hello?
Mrs. Moomin.
Yes, I said.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next, I need a motion for consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for board action classified staff. I'm looking for a motion for 5.2, termination.
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentation for board action classified staff, item 5.2.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Board, do you have any discussion on item 5.2, termination? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
No.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 4-1. Next on our board agenda is item number 6, is the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs. I'm looking for a motion for items 6.1 through 6.8.
Can you, separate 6-6?
Give me 1 second, Board Member Elba. Field trip for students of promise?
Yes.
I retract that motion. I'd like to make another motion for item number 6, is the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs. I'm looking for a motion for items 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.7, and 6.8. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve by consent agenda item number 6, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel, items 6.1 through 6.8, and we're removing 6.6.
Do I have a second? Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mewman. Board, the floor is open for discussion on 6.6, field trip for students of promise. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any questions about those items, 6.1?
So I have a question.
Go right ahead.
The boosters, what, they donated this to go towards what?
The,
Superintendent Jelly?
toward the athletic program.
Or just any sport?
Mm.
So, just,
Yeah, they cover all sports, so they do volleyball, they do basketball, they do football. So they made the donation to the athletic department.
okay, so volleyball, football, and what was the other one?
Technically, they only do boys basketball and football.
Okay, so, with the new ORC that came out, as Dr. Rock and I mentioned to you guys last week, when organizations donate to one, it has to go across the board. So you can't just say one or two, it's gotta go for everything. So if you do for football, you gotta do for cheerleading. If you do for the indoor track, you gotta do for the outdoor track. It's gotta be across the board, so just putting that out there for the rest
Yeah,
of
we'll monitor, we'll monitor that, how that 5,700 is spent. And we'll bring a report back.
Any other questions, Board? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll, sir?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Consent, I need a motion for the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs. I'm looking for a motion for item 6.6, field trip.
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve approve item 6, consent agenda, superintendent's recommendation and presentation for personal and programs, item 6.6.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mewman. Board, the floor is open for any discussion on 6.6, field trip for students of promise.
So, Dr. Rock, I just have a question. So, as I watched the email come back and forth about the gentleman who didn't get paid for these programs, I'm a little confused because I was under the impression that this was the district paid for everything and then the county reimbursed, but then when the county said that the person doesn't work for them, I'm a little confused as to how does that come into part here, and who are we paying to for it to be reimbursed if they're not employed with the county? And where are these funds gonna come from?
All of the funds fall under the CTAG program,
Okay,
so it's all falls under that, and it's reimbursed from the county. But you
Okay.
are correct, the consultant is the one bill where, well, he's contracted through the county, but then he bills us and we pay him his consulting fee. So it's the same as any of the other ones, it'd be the
Okay.
same as this.
okay.
Except for here, the linkage coordinators will set up the PO
Mhm.
for whoever's supposed to be paid, and then, we would make the payment, and then we fill out a form and submit it to the county, and the county reimburses us.
Is that
And there's a
quarterly?
budget that's set up.
Quarterly?
Well, no, he just wants to be paid quarterly. Some of the other districts that I asked, they pay him every 6 months. So he wanted to be paid sooner, so I told him, I said, well, bill us quarterly, but we're only gonna pay you whenever services are rendered.
Right, okay.
And he was in agreement with that. You guys
Yes.
now have a formal agreement with him to that end?
Any other questions about that item 6.6, Board? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll, sir?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is item 7, unfinished business. I see none. Next would be,
We do have some unfinished business.
what is that?
The last agenda, when there was a dollar amount on it, that it wasn't a dollar amount for the busing that was going for the daycare, or remember? And I asked about that, and then we're gonna bring it back to the next meeting?
Yeah, we haven't started it yet, so we don't have the program has not started, so we have not been able to compute the number.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Go right ahead.
When it comes to unfinished business, is the expectation for these items to just be addressed as we get here, or should members still be sending their emails in advance?
I still send it out monthly.
All right.
You have 3 gentlemen that can give the information, Dr. Rock, Superintendent Jolly, and myself.
That's fine. I'd just like to ask then, as a board collectively, when those emails go out, if you think of something, please let me know so that we can have a productive meeting without all the interruptions. Thank you.
Thank you, board member. Next is item number 8, new business. Board member Elba is on the Northeast Regional Executive Committee, and she's going to give an update on that, and then she also went to the suicide prevention training update. Board member Elba, floor is yours.
Well, it's not an update.
What's that update on here? I'm sorry.
So, no, that will be incorrect. So, if you guys remember, 2 months ago, when I announced that the Volunteer of the Year and the middle school going to Columbus, and I asked for a vote to pay for the Volunteer of the Year and their guests for the conference dinner. And you all wanted to wait. Well, the deadline was today, but Dr. Rock wanted to still put it on the agenda. So, because it does require a vote, so I need to know if anybody's ready to vote or not.
Did we get a dollar amount?
$40 a person.
I know, but did we officially get something to the board? Did you guys receive something?
No, it's $40 per person to
So
go.
we're looking at $80 for one person?
No, it's $160. It's $40 a person plus their guests.
So 2 people are
Mr.
going.
So Ms. McNair won,
Right.
and she's taking someone. Ms. Blackman won, and she's taking someone. So this is kind of the same thing we did for Mrs. Thompson when
I
Mrs.
got you.
Thompson won last year. So I just need to know if we're voting on
And when is this again? I'm sorry, just to refresh my.
Next week.
October 3rd. The board thanked them and said it was okay for us to pay for them, but we just didn't capture a vote.
So this goes back to what I had just said.
Yeah, I wish I would've known.
This needs to be on the agenda as an item to vote. And what you did last time, remember?
I didn't know this was on the
I'm
agenda.
speaking.
Oh,
She has the
excuse
floor,
me.
she has the floor, please.
What you did last time is you sprung it on us. You
Oh.
brought them in here and said, hey, guess what I did? Now will you guys take a vote and pay for it? And that's not the right way to do it. I'm all for supporting the volunteers. I will admit that, I think that if you're gonna ask the board to pay for something, we should have had a little bit more of a say in who you were nominating. I'm happy for these individuals. I think that's great if we pay for it. All I'm asking you to do is to do it the right way.
So
That's
Dr.
all I'm
Rock,
asking.
Dr. Rock, please take this out of my, my little $95 salary. Take both of theirs out of there, that $160.
Board Member Elba, you don't have to do that. This board will make a official vote about those
There's
items.
been no vote, Mr.
I know, I haven't called a motion.
There's no
So if
vote.
you let me call a motion, as board members, we can call and address how we feel about it. At this time, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think one of the biggest problems is the lack of communication.
Okay.
It was inconsiderate of the board member to appoint, nominate a person without discussing it with the entire board. It was said, I don't know how many other ways we can put it, but you can't keep putting us on a spot without discussing it with us.
Okay, so let me say this. First of all, this has nothing to do
No, we're
with
fine.
you
We're
all.
gonna-
So,
we're-
no,
And
no,
why do
excuse
we
me,
have to pay for it?
excuse me. This has nothing to
Yeah,
do
I got
with
you.
you all
I got you.
as far as a nomination. This is a committee that I sit on
understand.
outside of the 5 of us.
But you're still
So-
coming to the
so-
board for a vote.
I'm only asking you guys to pay, but because it's such an issue, I don't need.
It's not an
you to
issue,
pay.
it's the way it was
So,
presented to
no,
the board
no,
in general.
Wait a minute. I can present anything, I can nominate anybody, that's the whole point of me sitting on this committee.
I understand that,
can
but I
do
mean, you
that.
still need the
I can-
board
I
to
can
weigh in
do
on
that.
stuff.
Wait a minute, I can nominate and I can select whomever, just like I selected the
Yeah,
middle
we-
school.
we never said you
whomever.
couldn't.
So when I nominated the high school last year and they won, nobody was complaining because everybody wanted to be in the spotlight. But because I nominate 2 people, it's now a big deal.
You haven't brought it to the board member
I don't have to
Elba.
bring it to the
I
board.
understand,
It's
but you're
original
coming to us
committee.
for a vote, but you didn't even tell us about it. So
When
we're
did I tell you about
blindsided,
it?
like,
No,
oh, why are these people
You
here?
weren't blindsided if I told you 2 months ago.
Told us that these people were coming to a board meeting?
So, once again, Dr.
I'm gonna call a roll. No, Dr. Rock, you're not gonna take anything until I call a roll and we take a vote as a general board.
Oh, God.
At this time, I need a motion for the Northeast Regional Executive Conference payment for $160. Will I please have a motion for the Northeast Regional Executive Conference paying for those items, $160.
Can I ask a question again? What's the 160 for?
She's taking a spouse, 2 volunteers won, and they're taking a spouse or their significant other.
That's 80.
Right, it's 160. It's 2 of them.
Oh, it's 40.
Yeah, it's 4 people.
2 plus 2 guests.
I know it's late.
Quit
I'm
listening
sorry.
because this is irritating.
Right,
Can I have a motion and we can,
A motion, and then I got a comment.
come on, Ms. Gator, thank you.
I will make a motion to allow the board to pay for the Northeast District Committee's nominations for Dorothy Blackman and a guest, and
Ms.
Mrs. McNair
Yeah.
and a guest.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Board Member Gator, second by Vice President Mitchell. Board, do we need to discuss? The floor is open.
I want to make one comment. and
Board
I'm
Member
gonna reach
Gator.
out to the Northeast District Board about this, because I don't think it's right that you put us on the spot like this. I feel like if this is something that is being done by the Northeast District Board, then why not let the Northeast District Board pay for it, instead of you springing this on us at the last minute? Again, this has nothing to do with the individuals, it's the way that you present it.
Correct.
So I don't want anyone to say that we don't support the individuals coming out of this community, but remember, Elba, you have got to do things different, and you've got to do things right, and you've got to put us in a position to be successful. You don't do that.
Well, this has nothing to do with you.
That's fine.
So here's
Any
my
other
comment.
discussion? Go ahead.
I mean,
Go ahead.
this has nothing to do with you all. You all keep taking stuff personal. This has nothing to do with you. This is about a volunteer of the year, which is everybody so concerned about making your community look better. That's what it does. But you guys, everything is, oh, well, we need to do this ahead of time. Once again, it has nothing to do with you, period.
What are you, what don't you understand that you're asking us to pay
Doesn't
for?
vote, but she says nothing to do with
We
it.
have said a gazillion times, I'm so sorry for being.
That's all right, no problem.
We have said numerous times, we are in full support of
Right.
the volunteers in the community.
Exactly.
We are asking for order and protocol. That is it. It is disrespectful to continue to bring items to an agenda without clarity. Period, point blank, the end. We don't have an issue paying, but you have to tell us as a board what we're voting on, and you have to give us more information. We cannot operate this way, and that's it. So let's call the vote.
So, what, no, it's not it, because you can't say what you want to say and say that's it.
Yeah,
wanna-
but
You keep
Yeah.
repeating yourself and saying the
Hold on, hold
same
on.
thing.
Excuse me, Board.
However-
Hold on.
However, you're making the comment, there is no protocol, whatever. One has nothing to do with the other. So,
Okay.
yes, no, either one.
That's
Either
right.
way
Yeah,
goes-
we're gonna vote.
either
Don't worry
way
about it. No
goes,
biggie. We're gonna make a vote.
It's taken care of anyway.
That's all right, no problem. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba, Ms. Mitchell, Mr. Freeman,
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next is 8.2. Board Member Elber, would you give us a suicide prevention
I'll just give you the handouts.
training?
It's all about new policies that are coming forward that needs to be talked about as far as suicide prevention. Since we've had several kids here in the district try to commit suicide, I'm just gonna give you guys the policies. You can read them up on yourself or attend the training.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. 8.3 is our chat and shoe. We had discussed previous dates in October. Board, where are we at on that? Did we concrete a date on that?
We
No?
said we were gonna go, we were gonna participate in this.
Was that the 20th?
Yeah,
Yeah, I asked for the date to be in the agenda.
For 19?
It's October,
It couldn't be the first week, so it had to be the,
it's the 20th. We said we'd hold the vote, the date for the 20th.
Board, is that enough time to give us to do our, chat and shoe on the 20th? I'm just asking the board, I'm just asking. It's a question.
I'm sorry, I think it is enough time, it's just a matter of us, you know, coming together, and I don't think we need to go overboard with refreshments, I think we can keep it simple, and just let it be about the conversation and like.
Okay.
I think that's perfect.
Ms. Muman? You
That's
think,
fine, I'll agree with Ms. Gator, we don't need all that time.
Board Member Elba? 20th, October?
Will this be announcements?
I won't be here, but that's fine.
Vice President Mitchell, 20th, projected date to have a chat and shoe.
Yes, but I am gonna say this, when we chose the date, we all said the date was good because we pulled out the agenda, we pulled
Calendar.
calendars. My only question is, we need to determine a location.
The library is booked until the first of the year.
So no library.
I would make a suggestion, just do it at the high school.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, the high school is open on the weekends or anyway, so we could do it at the high school.
would you want Dr. Rock to see if he can secure, or Mr.
We
Jolly?
can secure it. Just tell me the time. I'll have it secured.
Time, are we looking morning, board, or afternoon, or which? 9:30-ish, 10? Just a suggestion, board.
10 is good with me.
Ms. Muman, 10 a.m. Mr. Jolly, if you can see if you can secure out 20.
I'll have it.
Vice President?
That's fine, how long are we gonna go, 10 minutes?
Yeah, let's just do 2 hours. That would be good. All right, Dr. Rock, is there any correspondence at all?
Yes, there is. Something from Highland Hills.
Highland Hills does have a corresponding, they actually lost a member of Omega Psi Phi, the Purple and Gold celebration for Dr. Ronaldo Lawson. He passed this year, 2018. He transitioned his heavenly home on Thursday, August 23rd. Services will be held August 30th in Durham, North Carolina. Huh? Yeah, this is old. Who gave you this? Oh, is that on here? I don't see, it's September 28th? The cute brother, you see the date? I don't see dates on it. Oh, it's on the card, you put it on, oh, I'm sorry.
It's right here.
Okay.
It says a memorial celebration will be held Friday, September 28th at the Shelter House in the South Chagrin Reservation of the Cleveland Metro Parks.
Thank you so much. Dr. Rock, any other correspondence?
No, sir.
Announcements, the boys' football game have a
It's
homecoming
week.
this Friday against Shaw. They are going to have a mini parade going down Warrensville Road to Alameda, then into the stadium with the band, and you're going to have both bands. You're going to have the high school band and Shaw band performing, coming out of the middle school, going down Alameda and into the stadium. Superintendent, is there any other announcements that you?
You know, we had cake today for the community that's over here.
There is refreshments over here, and it is cake if you would like to take part of it. Several of the board members will be attending the National Council of Urban Boards of Education. Along with Superintendent Jolly, we are going to Las Vegas to do our personal development. I wish the board safe travels, and I will see you there Wednesday, correct? At this time, I would need a motion to, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
One thing,
Mhm.
since, I don't want it to be a big deal for next month, but we do have to vote on the middle school since they did get are getting the opportunity to go to Capitol Conference. So I don't want anybody to say that they didn't know when it's time for them to go, because they won.
Okay, Mr. Jolly, could you get the information on that?
Yeah,
Like how many
we'll make
students?
sure it's on the agenda and ready to go.
Okay, at this time, Board, I would need a motion to adjourn the meeting for the regular meeting on September 24th, 2018. Can I have a motion? Do I have a second? Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll, sir?
Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell? Mr. Freeman?
Yes, we are adjourned. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and please take part in some of the cake. Please take some of the